Welcome to this special Halloween edition of Falkon Theatre podcast. I'm your host, Dean Jansen. I'm going to be joined by my son, Noah Jansen, and we'll tell you everything you need to know about the movies, old and new.
All right, welcome back to the Falkon Theatre podcast. I think this is episode 11 now.
That was a pretty weenie beginning there. Let's put a little excitement into this.
Okay, sorry. You know what? I got off night shift. Okay, that was the practice.
Sure. Yeah, do it again. Do it better.
Okay, Kubrick. We could do it 127 times. Okay, right, pause. Welcome back to the Falkon Theatre podcast, episode 11. I'm noticing I think we're kind of spacing them out a little bit more than we did in the fall, but maybe that leads to higher quality, a quality over quantity of the podcast coming out, hey?
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. It has nothing to do with the fact that we're busy and have, other things to do in our lives.
You have other things going on?
Let me tell you, freaking retired, and I've never been so busy.
Man, I can't wait till I retire. I got a few years to go.
1 or 2, eh?
At least, fingers crossed. Yeah. But
maybe being in Halifax, or I said Halifax, being in Nova Scotia for 2 weeks put a little crimp into our style too, though.
Yeah, that's true too. A little bit harder for your. I mean, no change for me, but for you, it was probably a little bit tougher to do any of that. So.
Yeah.
But you're back now, ready to finish off 2024 with hopefully a strong lineup.
This are you saying this is our last one in 2024?
No, but I'm saying you're back after your Halifax trip, and now you can finish up 2024 with a strong year.
Oh, I see. I was thinking this is kind of like our Halloween episode, since it's a week or two before Halloween here.
Spooky month, yeah. No,
yeah.
I think I like that.
Yeah, well, how about we have some Halloween stuff or some horror stuff in this episode?
I like that.
Okay. Well, to start things off, just talk a little bit about the Falkon Theatre, since this is the Falkon Theatre podcast. Our renovations were just about done. We've got a couple things left to do, but it's come along really nice. They put in a brand new concrete step because the old one was broken up and horrible. Looks awesome. Thanks to Little's Ready Mix for that, because that's fantastic.
How old were those steps?
Well, if they were built in 1945, you do the math, because I really don't want to do math right now.
So 45 would be 79.
Okay. Yeah, almost 80 years old. They might have been replaced at some point in there. I don't know. But one weird thing, and this is just a little thing, but they built the step right up with the level of the doorway, which I didn't realize. I used to step down out of the doorway, and the first time I came out of the theater, I went to step down, and I didn't step down, and it was just
fall over and break your face.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, hey, I was going to mention too in the intro, and I forgot. Apparently, Mr. Jacobson's been playing our podcast to his students in English class. So,
geez.
I was at the school yesterday, and they were like, "Hey, we heard your podcast," and I'm like, "Oh, you better be careful. There's a little bit of swear words in that podcast."
Oh, you know what? I'm up in the swears now. This is.
I was going to say, I can't imagine that Mr. Jacobson previewed it ahead of time. So,
oh gosh, no. Mr. Jacobson lesson planning? What?
Well, when you get to be that level, you don't have to lesson plan anymore.
That level, are we going up or down with levels?
I don't know.
I kid.
I think the older you get, the lower level you go, till you get to 0, and then you can retire.
Well, I thought you were going to say me, because technically, if you think you get old enough, you're going to go even below level.
Yeah. Hey, you know what I did when I was substitute teaching yesterday?
What did you do?
Well, it was an English class, and you know me, I'm all about the English class. Anyway, while the kids were working, I grabbed Bram Stoker's Dracula off the shelf and read it to them while they worked.
Ooh, I didn't realize till just quite recently. Like I always assumed Bram Stoker was like a German author. He was Irish. I never realized that.
That's right. I actually just read that when I was reading the back flap of the book. I didn't know he was Irish either until yesterday. So
Doesn't sound like an Irish name, but yeah.
Well, it doesn't really. It's not really an Irish story, but that's yeah. So a little bit of trivia right off the bat, eh?
There you go. Yeah, little spooky Halloween trivia.
So here's what we got coming up at the movie theater. This weekend, we're playing The Wild Robot, which is supposed to be fantastic.
Yeah, I really want to go see it. It looks so good.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about this one. I think we're going to have a really busy weekend. Then we have, after Wild Robot, we're playing Alien Romulus. So right after Halloween, that'll be kind of a good scare movie. I like right now, there's been like Terrifier 3 and a couple, there's been some horror movies come out, but they don't do real well in our theaters. So
Terrifier 3 has done quite well in theaters, though. I think it's already pulled in like 40 million worldwide for a budget of like 2 million.
I know, right?
They make them for low. Apparently, though, too, I was reading that there have been a large uptick in tickets for the Wild Robot of a bunch of like, say, teenagers or younger kids buying tickets to the Wild Robot so that they can sneak in and go watch Terrifier 3.
That's funny you say that, because I also read that the ushers at the big movie theaters, it's driving them crazy. All these kids trying to sneak into Terrifier 3.
Mm-hmm. And I've never watched them. Like I've heard it's literally just substance over story, like just off the wall, insane amounts of like gore and violence, like more like it would make Saw look like a kids movie kind of type thing.
Right. Yeah.
But I've never watched any of them, so
no, me either.
I can't speak on them.
Yeah, me either. Other than the fact that they're and Smile 2 are playing right now.
Yeah.
I kind of jumped ahead there because I was going to talk about that later, but that's okay. Back to what we got coming to the Falkon Theatre. We've got Venom: The Last Dance. We got a little movie called Hit Pig coming up. It's an animated flick about a pig who's a bounty hunter trying to get an elephant. Looks hilarious. Got great lineup. Jason Sudeikis and Andy Serkis are in it.
I mean, Andy Serkis, is he mocabbing the body movements too?
I don't know. I haven't. I'm gonna have to look that up, but I haven't seen whether or not he's actually doing that or not.
He's just got such a great voice.
He does. I agree. Plus, Rainn Wilson's in it. So.
Really?
Good. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I'm looking forward to that one. But one I wanted to talk about that's coming up in November, we've got this movie coming in that probably people haven't heard of. It's called Here.
Okay.
And so this is it pronounces itself as a cinematic journey through time. And the intriguing thing about this movie is that it reunites director Robert Zemeckis, with screenplay writer Eric Roth, and Tom Hanks and Robin Wright are starring in it. And all of those four people were all involved in Forrest Gump.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So
who does Robin Wright play? Is she Jenny?
Yeah, she's Jenny.
Oh, Jenny. Okay.
She's a bitch. Jenny's a bitch.
Well, she was abused as a child.
Well, okay, but she treated Forrest poorly.
And he loved her anyways.
Yeah, he had pure love. That's absolutely true.
But there was nothing else going on.
When I need Forrest, then Forrest is there for me, and when I don't need Forrest, I just run away.
And then I give him AIDS.
Oh, that shouldn't laugh. That's not funny. Anyway, so this movie is a generational story about families and the special place they inhabit, sharing in love, loss, laughter, and life. Reminds me, I saw a little Facebook thing today. It said, when I die, I want a sign put up that says live, laugh, love, but the live should be crossed out.
I like that. I'll put that on your gravestone for you.
So a quote from this movie here is the if you watch the trailer is awesome. Like I think this is going to be a great film. But this is our home. We lived here. So I think the movie's all centered around this house and the family that goes on there.
And like the generations as they age and everything. Hey,
right? Yeah, and in the trailer you see Tom Hanks and Robin Wright, and they're young, starting out, and so it looks like they've probably used the anti-aging technology on them because they look young, but it's not just makeup young. Like they actually look like their young selves.
And it's been enough years that we're past the Tron sequel when they made Jeff Bridges young, and it just looked horrible.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking from the trailer, that it actually looks really, really good, the anti-aging tech.
Because that's the thing, you have to be careful, because when it doesn't look good, it gives them that kind of just uncanny, like, they're old, but you know what I mean? Like, it's tough. It's kind of like when the new Indiana Jones came out, and I thought they did a really good job making Harrison look young, but they needed to fix the voice because it sounded like, it looked like 30-year-old Harrison, but it sounded like elderly Harrison,
I know, right? Yeah, it didn't. You're right. Absolutely. So anyway, I think it looks really, really fantastic, and I hope we have a good turnout for it.
Well, I mean, and that like Robert Zemeckis and Eric Roth, like they're both very talented filmmakers. Like they've been in the game for so long that like they know the tricks to make a captivating story. So maybe even if, say, the gimmick of it all being in the house, maybe if it doesn't hold up well, I would hope that they at least have an engaging story at the minimum.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so anyways, that's what, those are the ones I have confirmed. I'm working on our Santa Claus movie, which should be on Saturday, December 7th. That'll be our free Santa Claus movie that weekend. I'm working on that one right now, and I'm working on basically our finish off November and all of our December yet. So
have you sent off your invitation letter to the big man up north to make sure he's going to be there that day?
I haven't yet, but I think we're still early. I think it's okay.
Oh, okay, good. I just hope it wouldn't get mixed in the shuffle of all the letters coming up here the next month.
I know. I better get it in early. You're right. Okay, so let's move on. Noah, you got this next section.
Yeah, so I was kind of laughing looking recently here about like this fall was kind of a bit of a blunder for movie releases, and like I don't know what it was, but like Lionsgate, they had just such a bad fall. Like the three big movies that they had come out in like whatever August, September, Borderlands, The Crow, and Megalopolis. And so I was just curious. I was kind of looking up, like, because all of them I think are done their major runs. So I was just kind of looking up what the budget to profit was. So Borderlands had a budget of 130 million, and it only made back 33 million. And now, granted, this is just the movie budget. This doesn't count towards the marketing or anything like that. The Crow had a budget of 50 million, and it only made back 23 million. So only 10 million less than Borderlands, but about a third of the budget. So not as bad. And then finally, Megalopolis, Francis Ford Coppola's kind of like artistic, what you would really call it, vision that he had a budget of 126 million, and it did the worst by only bringing in 12.3 million, which I do want to go see. I really like Francis Ford Coppola as a director, and with his kind of passion project of his, I think it would be. I still want to see it, but I'm curious how much of that 126 million was Lionsgate money, because I had also read that Francis Ford Coppola, because he's very well off. He apparently has his own winery that he's actually made more of his fortune off of than his movies, and he apparently allegedly personally funded a majority, if not all, of the movie because he wanted full creative control. Whether or not that helped the movie, I mean, probably not. But so I don't know how much that's going to affect Lionsgate. But at the end of the day, they're still the distributor for the movie. So not a good fall for Lionsgate, and hopefully we can maybe see other studios kind of pick up the slack that they seem to have dropped here in the next coming months.
You know what I'm noticing is when these movies come out, like for example, Borderlands, it got right away. People hated it before it was even released. It was people were hating on it so badly.
Same with The Crow.
And same with The Crow. So I haven't seen The Crow or Megalopolis. I was away. We showed The Crow here, and it didn't do well. We have not shown Megalopolis, and won't be bringing it in. It won't fit into our schedule. But I would like to see it in big screen. I think I would like to see it, and I think in big screen is the way to see it. But we'll see what happens. But Borderlands wasn't a terrible movie. It was fun. I know why the people who love the game, and the game has this massive following, and I know why the people who love the game, why they hated on it. But if they would have just watched it as a fun action movie, it was actually not that bad.
I think the tough part about it too is, like, one, it yes, it is an established franchise, but I wouldn't say Borderlands is a well-known, video game franchise outside of the video game world, like Mario, or like when the Detective Pikachu movie came out. Like those are brands, those are names that even people who aren't video games, anybody who would call every video game console a Nintendo, they would know who those characters are. They would take their kids or whatever. I think what Borderlands kind of lacked was the fans of the games had already made up their minds that they didn't like it. And on top of that, I don't think, would just a person who doesn't know anything about video games want to go out of their way to go see Borderlands,
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess therein lies the hitch. When they're making these movies about a specific IP, they need to... the only ones you're going to attract are the Borderlands fans. So if you make a movie that they're not going to enjoy, then you're slitting your own throat.
Well, and then they won't recommend it at all to their friends, or hey, you know that game that I played, Borderlands, they made a movie. Hey, it was really good. You should check it out. And oh, hey, maybe now there's some more Borderlands fans. But they definitely, whoever was bought, like the producers and the people marketing behind it, definitely dropped the ball, I think, compared to the people who put all their time into the making the movie.
Yeah, and The Crow didn't need to be made. I mean, there was no reason to make that movie. I don't know what
exactly. And like maybe it's a situation. It's like they're just hey, we have the rights to this. Let's do a remake of this. Like the original Crow with Brandon Lee. Like I really enjoy it. But it has it's more of a cult following movie. Like it never got the only reason it's really remembered to this day is because of what happened to Brandon Lee on the set and dying during filming. That's kind of really what solidified it as, it kind of gave it almost like a Heath Ledger's Joker a bit to the legacy behind the movie itself. Again, not saying it's a bad movie. It's a really good movie, but I feel like with that kind of cult legacy that it carried, again, the people who are fans of the original Crow were not happy that they were doing a remake that didn't even be made, so they're not going to go out of their way to see it. And the average viewer probably doesn't care or know enough about it to go out of their way to see it as well,
Yeah, so who is their audience? Who are they making that movie for?
Exactly. Themselves, I guess.
It seems to be, who is your audience? They don't seem to ask that question anymore. I don't know. Like it, I see it quite a bit, and it's going to come up later on again. I'm going to talk more about who is the audience for this movie. I don't, and that's why it's doing poorly.
Yep. Why we got to get these movie producers to start listening to our podcast. We'll fix Hollywood.
That's why we're doing this, just to fix Hollywood. right?
That's why I wanted to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's move on. I want to talk for a minute about age ratings in films. And this comes up. We've already kind of touched on it, but I was on a subreddit called Movie Theater Employees, and the ushers who work in like the big movie theaters were really complaining about all of the kids trying to sneak into not just buying tickets to a different film, but actually trying to buy tickets to Terrifier 3 or Smile 2. And so they're saying to the kids, you have to have a parent. So they have parents that are coming in pissed off because they don't want to go to this movie, and then the parents are acting like jerks and assholes because they're being forced to come to this movie. And so, why? I guess I ask as a theater manager, I'm asking the question: if the parent is there and saying, "I'm allowing my kid to come in," why does the parent have to go in?
Yeah, that's fair. Have you ever had that issue where you've had to turn away kids from? I mean, I know you guys don't have a lot of very, more R-rated movies playing, but have you had to ever turn down anybody? Be like, no, you're like, you have no parents here, you can't come.
So, well, first of all, in Saskatchewan, we actually don't have any age ratings on our films anymore.
Really?
Yeah, the Sask Party passed a law just about a year ago, and this is what it says. It's this is on the Saskatchewan government website. The legislation and accompanying I can't say that word regulations will require that film exhibitors provide detailed information on a film's content to the public, such as the age of the attended audience, nudity, sexual activity, adult themes, violence, coarse obscene language, and substance use. Adult sex films will continue to have an age-based classification, though. So technically, none of the other films have an age rating per se. We used to follow BC's age rating, but now we actually don't have an age rating in Saskatchewan.
I actually didn't know that. That's really interesting. And you know what? And I mean, I guess I kind of agree with it. Like, if the parents already letting their here's the thing: if the parents are already letting their kid go to that movie, like obviously, like kind of said, yeah, like they don't care, they're okay with it. Or if the kid isn't bother asking anyway, and the parents don't care, the parents just don't care anyways.
Yeah, yeah. And I've only had one situation since I've started. We've been there almost 2 years now, and there was a kid came into Oppenheimer, and he appeared to be by himself. And when he came in, at the moment I was like, this kid, this isn't a movie for him. But I let him in, but he was being such a jackass. I actually kicked him out of the movie.
Oh, really?
I said, come with me to the lobby. He came back to the lobby. I said, you're not going back in there.
Huh.
You can wait here or
and
leave.
and guess what? This kid's never gonna know about the horrors of atomic warfare.
And it wasn't even that the movie like was affecting him. He was just being a jerk because that's not a movie for kids. Like,
no, he's not engaged in it.
He was bored, and so he was being a little
dingus.
Yeah. So no, I haven't had, like you said, if the parents are letting them come to the film, then but we I don't think we've played an 18A movie.
Yeah, no.
If we played an 18A movie, I would be, more like
upfront about the content.
Yeah. I would question if young kids.
When you were a teenager, what would you say was one of the first, like, more kind of, I don't want to say like adult, but more R-rated movies you remember watching as like a younger teen or what have you? Like a movie that's like, okay, this technically wouldn't be age appropriate for me, but I'm watching it either at the movies or wherever,
I don't remember what the first movie I saw was that would have been like that. The one example I do remember, I went to History of the World Part 1.
I love that movie.
My cousin Gerard and I went to it, and we went to go in, and Mrs. Faulkner, like Dawn Faulkner's mom, was running and she wouldn't let us in. She said,
Really?
"No, this isn't for kids." And so we were mad. We were probably, I'm gonna guess, around 12 at the time. I don't know. I'd have to look up when did that come out. Anyway, I'll look it up. Anyway, we were mad. We went home, and because back in those days, you just walked to the movie theater and home, and we walked home, and my Gerard's parents were actually like, "Okay, well, we'll go to the movie, and we'll decide whether or not it's okay for you." And so they went down there and they went to the movie, and they came back and they're like, "Yeah, no, you're not going to that movie." So we didn't get to go to it. I have since watched it. It came out in 1981, so I'd have been like 11 or 12 when it came out. And so that was a movie I wasn't allowed to go to.
Oh, that's funny.
What about you?
You know, I was actually just thinking about this the other day, just kind of randomly. And one of the first, like, I remember, like, for me going with just my friends, to a movie, it was Step Brothers, like with Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly.
Oh yeah.
And I remember a couple of like my buddies, whatever, they asked me, "Hey, we're gonna go see it. Do you want to go?" And I was gonna go ask you guys, and I it was kind of asking, but with full mind thinking, like, they're gonna say no, you can't, like, that's not appropriate, And I remember asking you guys, and you're like, "Yeah, sure, that's fine." And so I would have been like 13, I think, and I remember just being like, "Oh my god, okay, wow." And I was thinking either my parents are really chill or they don't know, like, it's supposed to be a bit more of an R-rated movie. And then I remember watching the movie, and then Will Ferrell whips out his nutsack and starts rubbing it all over the drums. And I remember thinking, "Oh man, I really hope mom and dad don't watch this movie." And it's one of my favorite movies.
The only time I was ever, I can't believe my son is at this, was Eric wanted to go see Sausage Party. And so I took him to Sausage Party, and I had no idea how shocking that movie is.
Yeah.
And that one really blew my mind.
Yeah.
Especially
that's funny.
It was animated.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey.
So I was reading today. Actually, I was doing my movie reading stuff, and I read that Beetlejuice is about to become the second highest grossing comedy of all time.
Really?
What? It's up to $434 million. Do you know what movie it's going to pass in order to become the second highest grossing comedy of all time?
Like, it's tough because like comedies, like, they have those small budgets, but like they can either make bank or like just break even. On the top of my head, I can't, like, I'm sure once you say it, I'll know what you're talking about. But like on the top of my head, no, I can't think.
So the second highest grossing comedy of all time is Home Alone.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Doesn't that? 100%. Yeah, it makes complete sense. Go ahead, say it. Say it. Say it.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. Nice. So yeah, Home Alone was the number one comedy of all time until last summer, when Barbie surpassed it and blew it out of the water.
Yeah, because Barbie made like over like $1 billion.
Yeah, $1.4 billion. And Beetlejuice is going to become the second highest grossing movie at $434 million worldwide.
Jeez, so Barbie just has, I don't think they're gonna beat Barbie.
Now, I'd like to ask you a question. Do you consider Barbie a comedy?
Yeah, I think I would. Because I don't know what other like genre you could put it under. Because it's not a romance. It's not a biopic. Like and I remember watching it, genuinely laughing at a lot of parts of the movie.
Okay.
So I would consider it a comedy.
It's definitely not your traditional comedy.
No, not at all. But I don't know what other, because you couldn't consider it a drama, and like, you know what I mean.
No,
So
couldn't you?
maybe a dramedy.
Maybe, yeah. If that's a thing, I don't think the industry considers dramedy an actual.
Well, maybe we will change. We will change the industry.
We are one podcast at a time,
Exactly.
changing the industry.
Hopefully by episode 13.
And so I was actually kind of surprised that Beetlejuice at 434 million is the second highest comedy of all time when you consider how much money other action movies and those that make.
Yeah.
Like 434 million is not that much.
No, and I mean, and with Beetlejuice too, or Beetlejuice, whatever you like, with the sets and everything, I feel like it was still a pretty big budget movie.
I'm sure it was. Like even just paying the actors, those were some pretty big names.
Exactly. Yeah, they're definitely going to be enjoying their payday after.
Let me look up the budget for Beetlejuice. Wish I could just say rather than typing.
My guess for budget is 50 million. That's my guess.
100 million budget.
Oh wow, okay, so more than I was expecting.
So 100 million budget, and then usually you can expect that same amount in advertising.
Mm-hmm.
So 200 million.
So pretty much doubled its budget.
Pretty much looks like, which is
so
good.
We'll probably be getting Beetlejuice next.
Well, I'm sure now that it's come out, and Michael Keaton's already said that he would gladly do another one. So
yeah,
I'm sure there'll be more, and that's okay. I enjoyed it.
I really did. I really liked it. I mean, I really like the original Beetlejuice. So I had a bit of already nostalgia for this one.
I'll be honest, I didn't love the first one.
I just remember watching it a lot. Like YTV would always play it around Halloween, which is weird because it's not a kids movie, but it was on the children's channel. And I remember watching it like almost every time Halloween would come around. I remember watching it on YTV.
I wonder if one of my theories is about expectations going into movies. And my expectation going into Beetlejuice, because I watched it later, like people had been already watching it and talking about it. And I watched it later, and it had all this hype, and I was kind of disappointed.
Okay, well, which is understandable, yeah. I feel like it could have been maybe a little bit more concise with some of its story. It had a lot of storylines going on at once. They could have maybe trimmed it up a little bit, but I would easily sit down and watch it again.
Are you talking the original or the sequel?
Both.
Oh, okay. That's happened before. I remember there was a movie came out in the 90s, I think, something about Mary, and everybody was raving about it, and I watched it, and I don't think I laughed once. Maybe once. Maybe
something named Mary?
Something about Mary. Maybe the hand lotion in the hair, that might have made me laugh. And if you've seen it, you know exactly the scene I'm talking about.
I don't even think I've ever even heard of this movie.
Really?
No.
It was a big comedy at the time.
In the 80s or 90s.
Yeah. 1998 was when it something about Mary. Yeah. I don't know. And I was super disappointed in it because I'd heard how funny it was, and I just didn't find it funny, really. But,
well, comedy is subjective.
And expectation, right?
Yeah. Like, all the hype, and can it live up to the hype?
I'll talk more about that in a bit. Anyway, let's move on. Tell people what we did last week, Noah.
We went back in time. How far back, you ask? I guess not over. Under 100 years.
Almost 100 years.
Almost 100. So yeah, we got to go. The Roxy Theatre was putting on a showing of the 1925 Lon Chaney Phantom of the Opera. So back in the 20s, we still had, that was the era of the silent films, and Phantom of the Opera and Nosferatu. Those were kind of the big horror silent films of that era, and they had it was cool. When they introduced the movie, they were talking about how the version of the Phantom of the Opera we were watching that evening was a re-release that they had done in 1929, because the original had come out in 25. And the thing that they were saying, it was kind of interesting, was when this re-release would have come out was exactly the same year that the Roxy began construction in 1929. So it's just kind of neat thinking, like, the movie that we're watching is something that would have been a new release, one of the big draws to the theater back when it was first opening. So that was kind of cool. But and then they had a fellow there brought in by Saskatoon Symphony Orchestra with that, which I never heard about, like, one of these instruments before we had gone, but an electric accordion that had, like, kind of a sound system put into it that plays different instruments, and just improvise some music the whole time just watching the movie. And it was fantastic. It was such a amazing experience to sit through.
Yeah, the fellow sat on the stage with his accordion and just improvised music while we watched the film.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely fantastic. I could have gone again the next night and had, like, just as much fun. If they do another one, like, next fall for, say, a different sound movie, I would go to that in a heartbeat.
Okay, so I'm glad you said that, because I just got an email from the Saskatoon Symphony Orchestra. I got it yesterday. We hope you loved The Phantom of the Opera with Michael Bridge as much as we did. We are delighted to announce that Michael has already agreed to return next year and do another silent movie with us. We will announce dates next summer. So we have something to look forward to next fall.
I really hope they do Nosferatu.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Or The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. The either one of those two, like, I would absolutely just, like, especially Nosferatu. That's such a fantastic movie. I'm so excited for the new one that's coming out this Christmas by Robert Eggers.
I didn't know about it.
Yeah, I know. What's his name? Bill, like, Pennywise. Guy played Pennywise. Bill Skarsgård plays the Count Orlok. So, but no, yeah, it was just so cool, and it was just, it's a completely different way to, see the story, like, just the way the actors present themselves. Like, you could, like, having the title cards between scenes that kind of fill in some of the, the dialogue and everything. But even then, like, you could understand what's going on a majority of the time with the story just off of their body movements and the way they, you can even kind of read their lips a little bit and understand what they're saying. Like, it was just such it's so crazy just thinking how far in 100 years movies have come from that to, the talkies, to say, like take like Oppenheimer or Avengers Endgame and go put that in a movie theater in the 20s. You'd probably give them all, like, an aneurysm.
Yeah, no kidding, eh? And it was the perfect venue. The Roxy is such an amazing theater.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was
you guys should try doing that with your theater. It could definitely do the same kind of vibe.
Yeah, we would need a lot of money. You're right. It would be incredible, but
a lot of money.
We would need a lot of money to do that. And
But
so
yeah,
we need a big rich sponsor to come in and just donate a ton of cash to the Falkon Theatre so we can fix up the inside.
So if we have some eccentric billionaire listening to our podcast, please help fund our artistic dreams of having old movies play in the old theater.
Yeah, just a few million laying around, nothing to do with it. Give it to us. We'll take care of it. We're nonprofit. You can use it as a tax write-off.
Exactly. So yeah, so that was such a just a wonderful experience. So I was really happy we got to do that. And then so last weekend I went to the theater with Jody, and we watched the new Andrew Garfield Florence Pugh movie, We Live in Time. And it was really good. I really enjoyed it. It is, are you guys getting that to your theater?
We are not. It was actually, I'll be honest, they gave me the choice of Here or We Live in Time for the one weekend where there was nothing else kind of available, and they were like, my booking agent was like, well, I could probably get Here or We Live in Time. And I looked, and Here was a more recent release. And I
Yeah.
looked at who was in it, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll get Here.
So which is, it's completely understandable too. It was, I'll be honest, the script and the story is very, for a dramatic romance kind of story, it was very, I want to say basic, but just a very run of the mill kind of, the ups and downs of a like decade spanning relationship. But the two main kind of takeaways from the movie. So it is a very sad, like it covers some, talking about death a lot, and it covers some pretty sad subject matter. It was definitely some tearjerker kind of moments in it. The couple interesting things that they do in it though is the entire story is not told in a chronological way. Like they'll start at the beginning of the relationship, and then they'll jump to a scene that takes place 8 years later through, whatever has happened in their lives. They have a kid now, and then it goes back, and it jumped around really, like, just kind of different points in the story, but never once did you feel confusing. Like, whoever did the film editing did a really good job, because I never felt, confused or lost. Like, like I know, like say if you go see Pulp Fiction for the first time, until you get to the end of the movie, you don't really, then you see where all the pieces fit in the different vignettes. This, it does a really good job showing, okay, this is this period, this is this, but jumping back and forth, and never, they always gave you just enough time in a time setting. It never felt rushed, it never felt dragged out. So it kept it really fresh. And as well, Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield were just absolutely incredible. Like they made what was maybe say like a 6.5, a 7 out of 10 script. Their chemistry and their acting instantly brought the story up to it like a 9. Like, if they don't at least get like a nomination for each of them in one of the award seasons coming up, I'd be very surprised, because their chemistry together was so well done. And they really, you see a lot of these movies with, big time Hollywood actors, and it's very much like, oh, that's Tom Cruise. Oh, you can watch it easily and be like, oh, that's Andrew Garfield. I never felt like I was watching a Hollywood actor. Like, I felt like it was those characters, seeing them in that moment. Like, they were just fully invested into it. And it was a really, really well done movie. So yeah, so that was kind of the other thing that I've seen here recently.
Well, I'll have to wait, see if it comes out on streaming somewhere, and I'll definitely have to check it out.
Oh yeah, Jody was definitely a little more teary-eyed than I was for some of the scenes, but
It's not the movie causing tears, it's the dust in the theater.
oh no, it was within the first 5 minutes.
For me, anyway, it's always the dust in the theater.
Of course, of course.
I've seen a couple movies since our last podcast, but again, I was away, so I missed some. But we had Transformers 1 at the theater, and so I watched it. And to be honest, the movie was fine. It's gotten really good reviews, high praise from critics and audiences. I found it a little predictable. It's an animated, but this is another one of those, who was this movie made for? Because it wasn't made for little kids.
Mm-hmm.
We had a fairly good sized group of teenagers that came to it and really enjoyed it.
Really interesting.
But I don't know. It's funny because we didn't get a huge turnout for that movie, for Transformers, and you would think with a known intellectual property and great reviews, it should be a recipe for, but it really wasn't for little kids.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess that's tough too, because even the Michael Bay Transformers were, I guess they were a little bit more targeted towards that adolescence kind of era, So it's a very difficult, like, how do you balance kind of a more, based after a kid's cartoon, and make it adult but make it accessible to younger audiences,
And this was a Bay film, actually.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, I didn't realize until at the end I was watching the credits and it said a Bay film.
Michael Bay has single-handedly been funding the Transformers universe last 15 years.
And yeah, I wondered, like, last summer we had that Transformers Beasts come out, and maybe people are just a little oversaturated with Transformers. And so,
I can't remember. I think the last one I watched was the second one 20 years ago, whenever it came out.
Another one I watched was Joker Folie à Deux, which means madness for two. And everybody knows how horrible it has done. I really enjoyed it. I found it to be just captivating. The whole time I was just like trying to watch it and see the parallels in the world around us. And there's so many layers to that film, and the music matched the film so well. But people hate musicals apparently.
Mm-hmm.
People hated it for what it wasn't, instead of appreciating it for what it was.
I like that's a really good way to put it there. Yeah, because again, we're talking about people going in with the wrong expectations of, this is the movie. They already have the movie in their head of what it should be.
Yeah. But for me, I went in with a very low expectation because I had read all the reviews and I knew people were hating it.
Yeah, that's all I've really heard.
And I was pleasantly surprised. It was my type of movie. I like that cerebral, make you think. It doesn't hold your hand and it doesn't tell you what to think. It just makes you think.
Which I love. Those are some of the ones I love the most. The ones that, really. I hate it when a movie just explains everything for you. Like it defeats the whole purpose of like having that discussion after, and what did it mean to you and what did you take away from it,
Yeah. So one other thing I want to just mention to you that I watched the first season of an Amazon Prime series called SAS Rogue Heroes. And I just kind of lucked on it. It came up on my list, and I'm like, oh, this sounds interesting. I watched it. It was a fabulous little show, 6 episodes. There's a season 2 coming out, and it's from the creator of Peaky Blinders. He created this. So it's about the creation of the SAS during World War II in the battle for North Africa.
Really?
Yeah, it's absolutely wonderful little.
I'm gonna have to check that out. Because I love Peaky Blinders. So I mean, I love World War II. So I mean,
exactly.
It's my favorite war.
I think you'll love it. I did, and there's a season 2 supposed to be coming out here soon, and I'm really excited for it.
And you, from just like hearing the name, I wouldn't think to go out of my way to watch that. Like that sounds like some, schlocky History Channel kind of like,
Yeah, but it's not a documentary. It's full on drama, and it even says the things in this show that are most unbelievable are mostly true, or something like that. It's really good.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I got some Noah Knows here. It was kind of because I've been on a kick recently ever since we were coming up to watching Phantom of the Opera there. So I've been doing a lot of reading about silent films and the silent era, and just kind of really digging deep into a lot of the stuff. And it's kind of crazy, like reading, like there's so much of the silent era that in this day and age we'll never get to see. There's movies that are lost to time forever. So when I was kind of reading about it, there was a thing saying about how they believe up to 75% of all of the silent films that were made, from whatever the beginning of the 20th century till the late 1920s, and I mean even the 30s and 40s had a lot of them too. Not silent films, obviously, but the talkies. 75% of them are lost forever. We'll never see, either being destroyed intentionally by the studio because once the movie was played in theaters, through circulation, they didn't want to just keep storing all these film reels, so they would just destroy it after the movie was done.
they took up a huge amount of space.
Well, exactly, and at the time they didn't, movies were the new thing. They didn't realize the impact they were going to have on, society decades to come. So a lot of them were just destroyed by the studios, but there were many studios that did keep, vaults full of these film reels. And unfortunately, a couple times throughout the 20th century, I think notably like 1930, 1940s, and then the 1960s, there were these very large fires that happened in these storage warehouses that kept all these film reels because of the material that would make the films out of was also highly flammable. So not a good combo. And these warehouses, if they caught on fire, you would essentially lose every single film reel that would have been in there. So there's many movies. There's some that have been, found in private collections as the years have gone on. I believe actually Nosferatu was considered at one point a lost film until I think it was like in the 70s or 80s. It turned up in a private collection, but there's a lot of these films that we only really know about from like a promotional poster or a person's journal talking about seeing the movie, and that's really the only thing we know about it. So it's it's a little bit sad, because it is such a large piece of history. A lot of very movies that would have been big for the day too that are just never going to be able to be viewed by modern day audiences.
Right. Yeah.
And then kind of digging deeper too, I was reading more like after we went and saw the Phantom of the Opera. So in the Phantom of the Opera, the main actress who plays the love interest Christine was played by an actress named Mary Philbin, and she was considered like one of the biggest stars of the silent era. Like reading about it and the amount of movies she was in, like she would have been like the Florence Pugh or the Angelina Jolie, like a very large name in Hollywood at that time. And as the silent era started fading out and these talking movies became, into the mainstream, she did not feel comfortable on camera talking. She didn't think she had what it took to be an actress in a sound film. And so I guess she must have been very well off because she just kind of, took a step back from Hollywood, and her last credited acting role was in 1929. She never acted again, and she rarely, if ever, did any public appearances or interviews or anything. Really, one of the only notable public appearances that she had was in like the late 1980s when Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera musical, which really brought, because there had been a couple remakes of the Phantom, throughout the Hammer film era in like the 40s and 50s and everything, that never caught the leverage in the ground the original did. But when Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical came onto Broadway, that really brought back the story and the love and the passion for the Phantom of the Opera. And when it first premiered in Los Angeles, Mary Philbin, who now, I think she would have been probably in her late 80s, came to the premiere, and it was one of her first public appearances in like 60 years where, and so she was there for the Phantom, and apparently, I'm assuming probably, had a very warm welcome by people, but died, I think in the early 90s as well after that. Never started anything again.
Wow.
So yeah, it's interesting thinking how someone, could you imagine if, say, tomorrow, like Tom Cruise just disappeared from the acting world, which, with the church he's involved with, we never know what could happen. So
I wouldn't even call it a church. The cult he's involved with.
Yeah, that's true.
The pyramid scheme he's involved with.
Yeah, exactly. It's pyramid. I think it's more just like a golden tower.
Yeah. Actually, reminds me of have you watched the 2022 film Babylon with Margot Robbie and Brad Pitt?
No, I haven't. I've wanted to though.
Yeah, it did poor in theaters, but I actually quite enjoyed it. And it's set in that 1920s Los Angeles when they're moving from silent movies to talkies. That's part of that movie. So you'd probably enjoy it.
Well, and it's interesting too, like reading more into it, like so Lon Chaney, who played the Phantom, and he's kind of known as the silent horror guy. Like he did so many of these movies in the 20s, and he was this huge star, known for the way he could create these characters with his makeup and everything. And he passed away, ironically, of throat cancer right before talking pictures became a thing. So he died as the silent era film died as well. And originally he had been cast to play Dracula in the upcoming Dracula movie, who was then replaced with Bela Lugosi. And the really interesting thing is when we think about the vampire accent, like the Count from Sesame Street, I want to suck your blood. That was Bela Lugosi's actual accent, because he was a Hungarian actor and he spoke with this heavy accent. So it's interesting to think that if Lon Chaney would have been Dracula, how different the vampire genre, and that stereotype of the deep European accent, how it could have changed just based after the actor who portrayed him originally.
Right. Yeah, it could have been totally different.
So yeah.
Huh. That's cool.
That's my silent Noah knows for this week.
You know it.
I know it.
So I wonder what's happening in the Star Wars world lately.
So I mean, I think last time we kind of were talking about it, the last podcast was when they announced the Acolytes unexpected cancellation. Coming up well, I mean, I'm surprised they actually did, but I'm not surprised they did, but I'm surprised that they did. You know what I mean? This December though, there is a new show coming to Disney Plus from Lucasfilm called The Skeleton Crew. It stars Jude Law, and sounds as though it's like a bit of like a coming of age kid story. So I think it's, again, like kind of we were talking before about who is the target audience, because it's sounding though it's going to be a little bit more geared towards younger audiences. It's the story of these 4 kids who, I think this, from what I gathered, they make some discovery on their planet, and they go on this big adventure with Jude Law. But I just never got around to watching the trailer for it, and at this point I'm kind of just wanting to go in blind. I'm like, the trailer's been out for like 2 months. I just never watched it, and I think I'm gonna go completely blind into this series, not watch any of the trailers and get any of the, like, just have a true original Star Wars experience. So I could see it. I mean, I'm hoping I like Jude Law. He's a really good actor. So hopefully,
I'll be honest, nothing of what you've said has made me at all remotely interested in watching that.
It's Star Wars. I'm gonna watch it anyway. So
I might not.
I'll let you know. I'll report back.
Okay, if it's like amazing, like let's be honest, Rebels started out as a kids show and then it switched.
Yeah,
so
that's true. That's true too.
We're running low on time, so let's move on to what's our question of the day.
Well, I thought with it being Halloween, might be fun to do what's our favorite or top 3 or 3 in no particular order horror films that we would pick for the Halloween season. So you go first. You tell me, it doesn't have to be the best of the best, but just 3 that you really like in the horror genre.
Okay, so let me start off by saying I was not a horror genre fan. It wasn't those weren't my movies. Very few of them that I watched that I enjoyed. Like I watched Friday the 13th, didn't like it. Watched Halloween, didn't really like it.
Really? Oh, interesting.
No, wasn't for me. But with that being said, now growing up, the minister of our church, Pastor Cohn, used to have about once every couple of months, he would have a movie night at the church where he would rent a bunch of like different, mostly scary movies, and we'd go to the church and we'd spend the night watching movies. So the one movie that I watched there that I absolutely loved, and I have watched it every chance I get, is The Thing.
Oh, I love The Thing. That's such a good movie. John Carpenter. It's funny that you didn't really like Halloween, but you like The Thing.
Well, 2 totally different ways.
But it's the same story. The same guy though.
Yeah, but the movies are completely different in their storytelling.
That is true.
Eric, your brother, just bought me. The Thing was a short story that they made the movie out of, and he bought me the book that is the short story. And I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I'm kind of excited to
Really?
read that.
I did
Yeah.
not know that.
Yeah. My number two, and one that I loved as well, was A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh yeah.
I really enjoyed that. And my number three best horror movie, I would say, was Hellraiser. And
Really?
yeah, I loved Hellraiser. Now, it's come out with 9 sequels,
Oh
but
my
I think
God.
I've only watched one of them. I didn't get into the sequels, but I loved the original.
I honestly, I don't think I've ever actually. I mean, I know all the lore behind Hellraiser, the Cenobites and the box and everything, but I can't say I've ever sat down start to finish and watched a Hellraiser movie.
Yeah, you probably should. The first one, anyway.
Mhm.
I want to give an honorable mention, and this isn't a movie that I liked, but 1976 the movie Burnt Offerings came out, and for some reason, I have no idea why, my parents took my sister and I to that movie at the drive-in theater. And I 76, I was like 6 or 7 years old. I don't know. I think they thought we'd fall asleep. That's not even a movie my parents would want to see. I don't know why they took us. My sister and I had nightmares about that movie
What's it about?
for the rest of our lives. I think we still have nightmares about that movie.
What is it about?
A family moves into a house and the house is possessed, and it like takes over the family. And the only scene I actually really remember from my 6-year-old brain is at the end of the movie, the house is like all destroyed and it starts to rebuild itself. And it's the creepiest thing. It's like rebuilding itself, and it's like, and it's ready for the next family. And I just like, yeah.
I'm just looking at some of the pictures. Yeah, it looks like spooky as hell.
Like your grandma and grandpa wouldn't even have enjoyed that film. Why did they take us? Rosalie, if you're listening to this podcast, explain to me why you took us to that movie and terrorized my sister and I.
Oh, jeez.
So I never liked it, but it certainly had an impact on me. What about
definitely. You? So for my three, it not just like in a horror movie, but I probably would put it even in my top 5 favorite films of all time. Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. I absolutely, that's a movie that like doesn't matter what what mood I'm in or what's going on. Like anytime I can put that movie on and just, oh God, I just absolutely love it. Jack Nicholson is probably my favorite Jack Nicholson performance. You know,
and he's done some amazing work.
Exactly, like that just kind of goes to show, like it's just such a, and even the sequel, Doctor Sleep with Ewan McGregor was really good too. I really enjoyed that one as well. But the original The Shining is just such a fantastic movie. My second pick actually is the same as you, Nightmare on Elm Street. I remember, I think it was Christmas one year. You and Mom bought me it on DVD, and I remember watching it like that night, and I just
Great
was
Christmas
like,
movie.
I know, yeah, tis the season.
Don't go to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. And I absolutely just fell in love with that movie. Robert Englund, just Freddy Krueger is just such a weird. Back in the day when you could make just those weird, freaky, goofy, but scary characters,
When that whole idea that you can't go to sleep, like everybody at some point has to sleep and you're going to die when you do.
Yeah, so yeah, that, and then something a little more recently, and in my opinion, I would say probably one of the best modern day horror movies was Ari Aster's Hereditary. I remember I went and saw that in theaters here in Regina with Christian, and I think we just sat in the parking lot for like an hour after the movie and just kind of like had to decompress and like talk about the movie. Like I'm pretty good when it comes to scary movies. Like I don't, I'm good at, not screaming during a movie. Like I can understand that this is not real, and like, oh, this might make you uncomfortable, or a little nervous. But there was an actual moment in the movie that when the one character like comes out of like this corner like running at the screen, I actually like yelled in the theater. Like it's actually genuinely scared me. Like again, it's just such a well-made movie. And then
I don't think I've ever seen it. I might have to watch it.
It's really good because it's the whole movie too. Like the director essentially said that it's not he didn't make it to be a horror movie. The story is of a family tragedy, and the backdrop in the setting is a horror film, but it's a family tragedy taking place in this horror kind of world. And like Toni Collette, she should have honestly been nominated at the minimum for an Oscar for her role as the mother in that movie. She is just absolutely just amazing in it. It is such a great performance. So yeah, that would be my top three. And then I have to just throw an honorable mention because we're talking about silent films. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. That's probably my favorite silent horror film, and that would be one I would love to see them do a modern day retelling, like just with the German Impressionism kind of like artwork, and like just it's considered to be one of the first horror films ever made because it came out in like 1920. And again, it's such a same as Phantom, like the way they just are able to tell you this story with just purely the body language and the title cards is just so amazing.
Well, I actually never heard of it, so
really, it's quite good.
You know, you were talking about Hereditary, sitting and talking about it after. This wasn't a movie that I loved, but one movie that we literally, a bunch of us went to, and then afterwards spent probably 4 hours talking about, was the Blair Witch Project.
Oh yeah, that would have been like, and again, I think that's a movie nowadays. If you were to show someone that like who'd never seen it, it wouldn't be that scary. But I think back just with the marketing behind it and everything, I think that really helped elevate the eeriness behind it.
Yeah, it came out the right time, I guess. And yeah, there was about 10 of us went to it, and then we went over to the one friend's house and we all talked about it for the next like 3 hours or 4 hours. Like we just couldn't stop talking about it. It was great. But still not one of my top 3 horror movies.
No.
But was certainly a cool event when it came out.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Something you can't recreate that.
No, that's for sure. All right. Well, I think we've probably wrapped things up, talked about most of the things we wanted to talk about this month.
I think if everyone has already fallen asleep, all tucked in from their spooky Halloween stories, you need to change the intro to have like a spooky Halloween Falkon Theatre intro.
Ooh, okay, I'll see what I can do.
I want you to do your best, like what's his name from the Twilight Zone? You're about to enter the Falkon Theatre.
Maybe I'll find some Phantom of the Opera music. Is that copyrighted, do you think?
Find the public domain Phantom of the Opera music.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do. Anyway, everyone have a happy Halloween. If you're in Tisdale and area, stop by my house and see my giant skeleton in the front yard. Feel free to take some pictures with my big giant skeleton. It was a lot of fun getting that home.
Yeah, where did you dig that guy up?
I was at Canadian Tire, and I somehow convinced Mother that we should have it in our yard.
Oh, geez, you didn't have to, go hunt down a giant or anything?
Well, that would have probably been an easier thing, was to hunt an actual giant than convince Mother.
Convince Mother. You're gonna.
But I can be pretty convincing when I need to be.
Oh, I've seen it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.